Hi everyone and welcome to this new video. This time we'll be talking about TEC. It's an ETF issued by TD Management or TD Bank. So it's the TD Global Technology Leaders ETF. So what is TEC investments objective? So the TD Global Technology Leaders Index ETF aims to mirror the performance of a global equity index that tracks mid and large cap companies worldwide. Actually, this is what attracted me to this ETF. Usually, when I'm investing in techs through index ETF, I would by default go to anything that tracks the NASDAQ 100 like ZQQ. But this ETF is particular in the fact that it includes also mid cap. So not just because when you invest in, let's say, ZQQ, you will get only the large cap companies that are part of the NASDAQ 100, whereas this includes also mid cap. And as you know, in the technology sector, this mid cap could be like a future potential um, successes. So that's why the fact that they include mid and large is really interesting for a tech ETF. And more precisely, they're trying to replicate the Solactive Global Technology Leaders Index. So they're using this index uh, to, to to pick from stocks that they think will outperform. So what they're doing is the fund manager plan to invest in a selected subset of securities from the relevant index. So they're not tracking the full Selective Global Technology Leaders Index. They're doing some stock picking there to enhance the performance. So the TEC fund manager may also explore other securities for exposure, and of course it can hold any other like hold cash temporarily or things like that. So the idea here is that through TEC you will invest indirectly through this fund in a large number of mid and large cap technology companies worldwide, and it allows you to have a diversified portfolio in the technology sector. So you have, in general, if you want to invest in tech, you have two choices. Either you pick your own tech stocks, and or you invest in an ETF that will have a portfolio. That ETF manager will invest in a portfolio of tech companies. Uh, Definitely, like analyzing tech stocks is really hard, and they are super volatile. So if you're not familiar with technology companies or with the tech industry in general, it is hard to pick stocks because you don't have just the financials there that you have to analyze, or the macroeconomics. You have also to be knowledgeable about the technology and understand the future trends in the tech environment. So most investors will just pick an index ETF when they want to invest in tech, and you need so it's also to complement their portfolio. They'd rather add tech ETF yeah, than select their own stocks. So as you could see, so the ticker is TEC.TO, and it's the TD Global Technology Leader Index ETF. The last price was $28.85. For since actually the start of the year, it had been really like a really good time to invest in tech stocks. As you could see, like it's been up, and in a 5 years period, it's kind of similar to the Nasdaq 100. So uh, it is more adapted to a long-term investing. As you can see, there's some corrections here, but overall, it is definitely growing. That's because you're investing in technology companies that are really like Amazon, Apple, and all these big tech names, in addition to the mid cap ones. So, and these companies have witnessed enormous growth, whether during the pandemic or outside of the pandemic. Uh, Most of the growth in the global economy has been in the technology sector. So, what's the Selective Global Technology Leaders Index? I advise you whenever you want to invest in an index ETF to try to understand the index itself. Because why I'm saying that? Because if you let's say you are investing in an index ETF, uh, uh, and you don't know what's part of that index, what's the strategy, what's included. It's like you're investing blindly. And so you have to understand what the index is, what are the constituents, um, how they are selected, what are the criterias. Not all index are just a bunch of stocks in a traded in a security exchange. There could be some selection going on. There could be some analysis. There could be some ratios. So it's really interesting to just go there and just try to familiarize yourself with the index before you buy the ETF. So in this case, the Solactive Global Technology Leaders Index is comprised of traditional tech companies, as I mentioned, Apple and similar, like Amazon and all those, and other from different subsectors involved in disruptive technologies. So disruptive technologies, if you know the ARK fund, you know those Kathy Wood, that famous manager who owns the ARK funds. She became popular because she's really focused on disruptive technologies, and her funds have done amazingly well in the past years. And disruptive technologies will just mean innovations that are really changing everything upside down. So those are innovations or advancement that significantly alter or revolutionize traditional industries, business models. So we're talking here about the future Google, the future Amazon, things like that. So it's important. What I really like about TEC is that they have this portion of disruptive technologies. Um, Part of their index, and it adds value, of course, to have those companies because you're exposed to even more growth. And these technologies typically introduce a novel approach, efficiencies, and functionalities. It could be like a major change. If you think about it, Tesla was kind of a disruptive technology to the automotive industry. It came in with a new idea, with a new concept, with a new completely car that kind of revolutionized how the way we think about transportation. Now everyone else is following Tesla's lead. So Tesla at the beginning was kind of a disruptive technology. So when you're investing in tech, ETF, it's quite good actually to have those kind of companies that are involved in disruptive technologies or could be creating a new technology. And the most popular disruptive technologies we are seeing right now is the cybersecurity. Internet of Things is a big trend. Also, e-commerce, robotic, and automation. So all these are technologies that are seen as disruptive. So why should you consider? Like as we saw here, the index is really a quality index and includes the large firms and also the disruptive technologies. So it's a plus for TEC compared to other funds that are just trying to replicate the NASDAQ 100, and you would just have basically the big names and missing out on businesses that are more involved in disruptive or smaller and they can't make up to the NASDAQ 100. So why should you consider adding tech ETFs such as TEC to your portfolio? Adding tech ETFs to your portfolio can be really wise because most of the growth that are in the stock market in the global economy is in that sector. That doesn't mean that you have to put like 90% or 99% of your portfolio in tech, but it has to have a portion of tech depending on your tolerance for risk. Because they tend to be, of course, risky and quite volatile. They are being watched by the market, like the investors are watching them like hawks, hoping for big gains. And when things don't go the way they anticipated, the stock will suffer a lot. So it's something that watch closely and tends to be quite volatile. It could go down in one day 10% and go up again next month or so, depending on positive or negative news. And tech companies often innovate and adapt quickly to market trends, potentially leading to higher returns. They provide diversification by offering you exposure to a broad range of technology related companies, and this, of course, helps spread the risk. As I mentioned earlier, instead of picking stocks that you're not aware or familiar with the technology that they are using, you could basically just buy a tech ETF. The tech industry is also at the forefront of the global innovation. Investing in tech ETF allows you to participate in that development or the groundbreaking things that are going on, like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and so on. And also, tech ETFs tend to be highly liquid because, as I mentioned, they are being watched by a lot of investors, and a lot of investors add them to their portfolio. And generally speaking, index ETFs that are in the technology sectors are well known, and they have a large amount of fund under in assets under management. Now, in terms of historical performance, I compare TEC to similar ETFs. So we have ZQQ. This is an index ETF that tracks the NASDAQ 100. We have also XIT from iShares, and ZQQ is from BMO, and XQQ also from iShares. And XQQ is similar to ZQQ, and it just tracks the NASDAQ 100. So as you could see here, the 3-year average return of TEC is at the top with 10% 3 years average return. It's not old enough to have the 5 years average return, but you could see globally the technology sector has had like an amazing growth. If you look at XIT with 18.61% 5-year average return, this is really like an amazing number. For 3 years, we could see that TEC is at the top. Even at the year to date, they're also at the top. So it's a fund compared to other tech ETFs. Talking about historical performance here, TEC had a better historical performance in the 3-year span and a year to date span. And overall, the technology sector had great numbers. So ZQQ also has great numbers there. But particularly here, TEC has been really good so far. Now about the management expense ratio, it stands at 0.39%. This is a little bit more expensive than just an tech index ETF tracking the NASDAQ 100. But again, there is this disruptive technology. There is the mid cap, large cap, so there is more things to offer here for this ETF than just the NASDAQ 100. And so whenever you're looking at an ETF, you have to check the management expense ratio because this is what eating up your returns. At 0.39 is still reasonable here. And for the holdings for tech ETF, you have Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia. So all the big names that are part of the fund. The most of the weightings goes also for the big names, but there's also, as I mentioned, smaller companies that are included in the fund. So this is the end of the video. I hope you found this information informative. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section, and thank you very much.